My Lords, I thank the Minister for his comments, especially about continuing dialogue and revisiting. I think that's incredibly important. And I thank all noble Lords who've contributed. I think it's obvious that we all think that there are problems with this bill, and I do hope that not just the Minister, but the government is listening and they understand the depth of concern that we are expressing here. The noble Lord Khan earlier called my previous summing up speech candid, and at first I thought that was a compliment, and then I thought actually it sounds like something out of Yes Minister when the civil servant says yes, very brave Minister. So yes, very candid. Well, I hope I am candid, but at the same time I try not to be rude. I don't always succeed. I welcome the noble and learned Lord Anderson's support, however tentative, and I thank him for his examples, and quite honestly I wish that I'd asked him to present my Amendment 104. I think he'd have made a superb job of it, and I look forward to his using his teeth at report stage. And quite honestly, if it comes to a challenge between the government and Lord Anderson, my money is on Lord Anderson. He has my full backing. And the noble lady Mackintosh and Pickering, well, I sympathise with her visit to the dentist. I hope she's feeling better. But I think she's right to say that our amendments take things forward. And I will be keen on pushing this at report stage. The noble and learned Lord Thomas of Cumgiev, he talked about, well, he used a phrase that I thought was extremely a good one, and that I wish I'd used, which is about working for future generations. I think that is absolutely crucial, and when we're dealing with this bill, it isn't just for now, it isn't just for the next 6 months or a few years, it is for future generations. And he was also quite generous when he said the government believes in the rule of law. Now, you know, I have huge respect for the noble and learned Lord, but I'm not sure that's true. I think the government talks about the rule of law, but actually doesn't observe it. That's my observation of the way that they behave. But of course, we must trust the judges, as he says. And the noble Lord Krebs, for whom I have huge respect, said that the Office for Environmental Protection has to wield a big stick. I think that's absolutely right. It has to have the authority and the power to actually achieve all sorts of things. Now, he also felt that the Amendments 104 and 107A were a step too far, but I don't see why that's a valid argument, because quite honestly, giving up money hurts, and I think somehow we have to make it punitive. The noble Earl Lord Caithness said that that the OEP has to be independent and authoritative. I think that's absolutely right. He also said that financial penalties can be effective, but then he suggested that because the money was recycled, perhaps it wasn't that effective. But again, I would disagree. I think that, and it's not only the pain of the penalty, but it's also that it's a visible example of the fact that the government is wrong. And the noble Lord Hope of Craighead, I would thank him for his support. And he emphasised the value of case law, and that's something that was used a lot when we were in the EU. The value of case law, where the government is really held to account. The noble lady Baroness Young, well, her laywoman's view was extremely valid, very cogent, and I thank her for her support. The Right Reverend Prelate, the Bishop of Gloucester, talked about leadership and COP26. The fact is, we need an environment bill that's actually going to look good on the statute books when we get to COP26, or our government will be seriously embarrassed. And the fact that the OEP will have fewer resources than the preceding body, I think, is a matter of huge concern. And she also said that the window for action was closing, which is absolutely true. I mean, it's true not just for this bill, but for all of our actions on the climate emergency. And we are seeing endless examples at the moment of very unusual weather patterns, whether it's Canada or over much of Africa. We have to understand that we've got to act urgently. The noble and learned Lord Micaiah Clash-Fearn pointed out the illogicality of the bill. I really enjoyed that, and pointed out the fact that environmental law is seen as a grade below other law. I think that's absolutely true. I think DEFRA has much lower status than other parts of the government, and I think that's a terrible shame. They should be involved in absolutely every part of government. And the noble Lord Cormac, with his customary common sense, I was delighted to hear him support the rule of polluter pays. Of course, polluters have to pay, and the bill has to stand the test of time. It's riddled with absurdities. I wish I'd said all this. It's much tougher than what I said. And the noble Lord Duncan of Springbank, freed from the shackles of collective responsibility in his ministerial post. So he's joined our forces and spoken strongly on the need to give real teeth to this new system of environmental protection. Welcome, welcome. And the noble lady Baroness Parminter, in her usual way, I'd like to thank her for the support for 104, and she makes the very valid point that the Scottish body is more powerful. Why would we do less than our Scottish cousins? And the thought that the government is using world-beating along with the words Office for Environmental Protection here in England is ridiculous. The noble lady Baroness Jones, she supported 104 in the sense that it gives us the opportunities to discuss what penalties are appropriate, and I think that's a very, very valid area to discuss. She called it creative, giving the money to the NHS. But we all know the NHS needs a lot of money, but certainly the OEP needs broader powers, as she said. And the minister, he argued, this was an interesting point in his response actually, when he explained that within the EU, the UK had actually argued for financial penalties, but here, not. So it's good enough for the EU, but it's not good enough here. I'm sure he will explain that in other ways. And as the noble Lord Berkeley said at the end, there will be problems at report stage if the government doesn't give way on some of these issues. I beg leave to withdraw.